Акции «Бессмертный полк». Ребята постарше самостоятельно сделали в мастерских таблички с портретами родных фронтовиков.
Enslaved people are being sold to the Russian army for up to 100,000 rubles, $1,240 each, according to anti-slavery campaigners. The issue highlights Russia's hidden but chronic problem with modern slavery, which Putin's government has failed to tackle. Russia has by far the worst record on modern slavery of any country in Europe, with an estimated 1.9 million people living in servitude. This reflects a combination of extreme corruption, weak enforcement of anti-slavery laws, and government collaboration with slavers. According to the Global Slavery Index, Russia has the 8th highest slavery rate in the world, at 13 slaves per 1,000 people. In absolute terms, only North Korea has a larger number of slaves. Russia's government does less about slavery than all but 6 other states. While Russia had serfdom until 1861, modern slavery in Russia is largely the work of criminal gangs in collusion with corrupt officials and police. The victims are usually migrant workers from Central and East Asia, but also include ethnic Russians, some of whom are kidnapped. Slaves are typically confined in factory basements or put to work in remote agricultural enterprises where escape is impractical. Stalin's gulags often did not have fences because there was nowhere to go. One Moscow supermarket held 11 slaves in its basement for 5 to 10 years. Male slaves are often pacified by being given alcohol and barbiturates to keep them docile before being put to work as manual laborers. Female slaves are often trapped into sexual servitude and forced to work as prostitutes. Slavery is an open secret in many areas. An anti-slavery campaigner explains, "If we are talking about such workhouses or farms, then unfortunately, they all settle together, and there are often cases when these are entire villages. There, not only the relatives of the slave owners are in on it, the neighbors are also more or less aware of what is happening and support this lawlessness. Either they are involved in this in some way, or they simply prefer to remain silent. Although Russia has signed conventions against human trafficking and modern slavery, the practice is widespread, and the Russian state has done less to combat it than any other European government. Only 53 cases have gone to court in the last 15 years. Russian military recruitment drives are now colliding with the country's endemic slavery. The authorities of several Russian regions offer bonuses of 35,000 to 100,000 rubles to anyone who brings in a volunteer to a military recruitment office. This has proved irresistible to slavers, who were previously getting far less money for reselling slaves. Numerous slaves are being sold to the army by traffickers and slave owners, who find it far more lucrative than simply selling them to other slavers. The usual price for slaves varies, according to Dagestani anti-slavery activist Zahir Ismailov. In the south of Russia, if you're skinny, the price is 15,000 rubles, $186. If you have a specialty, mechanic, tractor driver, driver, it's around 20 to 30,000, 248 to 372. Ismailov is a member of the Russian anti-slavery organization Alternativa, Alternative, which helps to rescue slaves. It says it is coming across significant numbers of people who are being sold to military recruitment offices in exchange for sign-up bonuses. They often become victims of fraud and slave owners. This is despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of forced recruitments that ended with the signing of a contract pass us by. We simply pick out some isolated cases when people manage to escape. And then they tell us that at the same time 5 to 10 people went to the special military operation in the same way. And all the time some new methods appear. That is, these 100,000 rubles are not enough for them, the traffickers or owners. Somewhere people are simply kidnapped, brought in a state of insanity. They sign contracts where other people's payment cards are indicated as the cards of the volunteer himself. As a result, he goes to war. He's lucky if he stays alive in the first months. The money for his service is received by the fraudster. Why do you think so many soldiers complain about non-payment of allowances? Completely different people receive their money. Often such victims are even embarrassed to say that they simply do not remember how they signed the contract. This is in the best case. In the worst case, they die in the first week, sometimes without ever sobering up. Sometimes, before being sent to the front, the swindlers manage to sign over all the property of the volunteers to themselves. Military commissariat staff are in on the scam, according to Alexei Tupitsin, an opposition politician in the Irkutsk region. In Ust-Kut, for 2024, the military registration and enlistment office workers received 1 million rubles in bonuses, which they divided among themselves. That is, they registered everyone who came to the commissariat as personally recruited and received 100,000 rubles for each body. That is, in a year, they allegedly brought in 10 people. In one example, Andrei, a man from Penza with learning difficulties, was working in construction when slavers persuaded him to take a new job paying an extravagant 300,000 rubles, $3,721 a month. Instead, he was sold to a livestock farm in the Samara region. His sister says, "It was so remote that it was impossible to walk or run to a more or less populated area. It was lucky that this farmer decided that my brother was strong enough to sell him to the military registration and enlistment office. They gave him a passport for this short period of time, drove him around Samara, and there he ran away. Andrei was badly beaten and threatened with death to make him cooperate with the recruitment office. Fortunately, he was able to call his family and get rescued. Ivan from the Volga region had a similar narrow escape. He was taken to a slave workhouse in Sirzan and was told he would be sold to the army, as also happened to another resident. He tried to escape but was caught and taken to another house on the city's edge. Ivan managed to escape a second time and fled into a forest. He was able to contact his family, who rescued him. It's unlikely that either case will result in prosecutions, as ex-slaves are often too afraid to testify and cases are too difficult to bring. In Russian Krasnodar, children from a nursery group took part in a parade of military equipment. A war veteran, who looks about 60 years old, was interviewed. He definitely had not yet been born during the World War II.
Самоходные артиллерийские установки и даже истребители. Здесь все почти как на Красной площади, только в миниатюре. Парад военной техники воспитатели вместе с родителями продумали до мелочей. В частном детском саде «Маленькая елочка» особое внимание уделили и акции «Бессмертный полк». Ребята постарше самостоятельно сделали в мастерских таблички с портретами родных фронтовиков.
День Победы – главный праздник. Мы будем помнить наших подвиги прадедушек.
Ясельная группа, которая принимала участие, старшие, которые принимали участие, у них уже с детства прививается любовь к родине, и долг отечеству это у них как бы вот закладывается.
Насладиться блюдами полевой кухни, выпустить в небо воздушные шары в форме журавлей, ну и, конечно, прокатиться на поезде Победы. Все это юные воспитанники детского сада также смогли сделать во время праздника. И все это, чтобы с малых лет воспитать в детях чувство патриотизма.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.